Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Franelik. I am here to present a wonderful session for you guys to talk about looking inside a QBO conversion and client onboarding. A little bit about me today. I am a Intuit Canada Service Delivery Manager. I am supporting the larger accounting firms currently, and we have an entire team behind us that also helps manage the accounts with your account owners. I am also the owner and bookkeeper at Legal Eagle Admin Services. I am a member of the IPBC and a certified professional bookkeeper. I've been a pro advisor for approximately 5-6 years, and I come from a background of 20 years of bookkeeping experience. This course is going to qualify for CPD credits, and you will get some further information later on about how to get your certification for that. So today I wanted to talk about your service delivery management team, who we are, what we do, how we can support you, choosing the right client and subscription for QBO, who is currently, as of today, a good candidate for QBO, QuickBooks Desktop to QBO migration best practices. I'm actually going to take you step by step for that. And then we're going to talk about Sage and list migrations to QBO as well, and potential future Xero stuff coming down the line. And we will also have time for some questions afterwards. So first, we're going to talk about your service delivery managers. There is a team currently of 9 of us, plus our manager, Scott Bailey. Each one of us is assigned to a few account managers and business development managers. We try to stay within the territory, so that way, even if your account manager changes, we try to be sort of the constant piece. There is still a little bit of shuffling around, but these here are the wonderful faces on my team. And what exactly do we do? So we are here to help you as a resource for onboarding and to remove barriers to your growth. What that can look like is directing you towards training, showing you what training options are available, where to find it within your QBOA, provide additional training resources like webinar links and upcoming events, talk about the benefits of our training and pro advisor programs, help you with migrations, that we can take these off of your plate so that you can continue running your business. And we will actually even do a post-migration analysis and break down any discrepancies within that migration by GL and by how much, so that you have an easier time making any adjusting journal entries. Sometimes things may look like discrepancies, but they're actually just a different way that the programs behave from your original platform to QBO. We also have onboarding resources for you and your firm to help you as well as your clients. So things that we can do to assist in that department is provide training tutorial videos to remind your clients how to perform certain functions in QBO. Things like how to create an invoice, customize their invoice templates, how to record a payment, talk about the benefits of the cloud, help you with chart of account templates for specific industries, and then other resources that either are slowing you down, maybe increasing your efficiency is your goal. We want to understand what it is that you are struggling with and help you come up with whatever solution we can to make that struggle a non-struggle. We also have something called client segmentation. So especially if you're newer to our platform, this is going to help us identify what clients you have on different platforms that are not QBO, which ones are a good fit, and then help you come up with a plan to move those clients into QuickBooks Online by helping you determine which ones are the easiest ones to move over first, moving over into more complex ecosystems. And the reason that that's important is if you try to move over somebody who would maybe have a much more robust app stack or requirements, as you're starting to learn QBO, that may not end up being the best experience for you. And we want to make sure that you're doing this in the right order and that you're also taking the time to really understand what QBO can do and how to maximize and take advantage of the efficiencies within it. Determining the right client for QBO is always sometimes a challenge because people sort of have a very high level understanding of what QBO can do. But then when you start getting into more detailed information about your clients, that could be sort of a little bit more of a gray area. So things that we definitely want to look for are service-based industries, professional corporations, people with small inventory. You want somebody who doesn't want to use servers, they're tech savvy, and they're also willing to jump in with both feet. That is going to be the sort of the ideal client for the first wave of people that you want to move over. We don't want to look for people that have extensive company and employee history. Doesn't mean that they can't have 5-10 years of history, but how also transaction heavy are they? And then also complex inventory needs. There are some restrictions for QBO. Sales orders are not available in QBO, but sales receipts are. There's no fixed asset tracking with a fixed asset manager. We cannot currently do custom price levels. We can't do estimate to actual reporting, and we can't do a balance sheet by class for not-for-profits. Knowing that information about customers, it's also important to understand the different subscription levels of QBO so that you end up onboarding your customer onto the right platform. A lot of people, one of the questions we always get is, my client has a self-employed subscription, how do I upgrade that? Unfortunately, you can't do much with a self-employed subscription. I believe now you can invite in your accountant, but it's really hard to try to get reports. It's basically a swipe left, swipe right for these small kind of more MLM businesses, somebody who's just starting out and they want to they only have the one bank account. They want to track what's business and what is personal and not really break it down too far. The basic business subscription would be the easy start. It's got very limited functionality. It will track your AR, but it will not track your AP. Moving up from that, we have Essentials that will do almost everything that our top tier plus subscription will do. The only thing that it won't be able to do is track inventory projects. So if those two are requirements, it's definitely the plus subscription that you're looking for. All of these here have tax modules in them, so you can still end up filing your provincial sales tax and any GST, HST filings. We also do have subscriptions available to be translated, turn on the French module, and we do have also Quebec reporting in there as well. So we're going to walk you through a QuickBooks Desktop to QBO migration, the way that our team would actually do it. The reason we want people to understand kind of what needs to be done pre and post is to ensure that it's coming over nice and clean and that you also know how to do a nice quality check at the end. So the first step that you want to do is in your desktop file, you want to make sure that your target total is less than 350,000 targets. To find your targets, you would press F2 from your home screen and you get a little pop-up window that comes up. About halfway down on the left-hand side, you will see total targets, and that is where you will find that number. A lot of questions that I get regarding targets is, what is a target? Is it the number of transactions? No, it's actually the breakdown of the GL lines on an invoice or even underneath a check when you break it out for multiple expense categories or income categories or item tracking. And so a customer who maybe is in a service industry and does quick one-line items and one-line checks is going to take a lot longer time to get to that 350,000 target limit than somebody who is billing for products and services, keeping track of inventory, having multi-line invoices, having an expense report broken down, or a check to an employee for reimbursement for multiple things. Right now, we are able to do Pro Premier migrations, or you're able to also do them from 2009 or later. That will depend on the version that you, the earliest version you have. and how many backups are available prior to that. If you're having problems migrating something, again, our team is always here to support you. You can get in contact with us through your account manager, and they'd be happy to do an introduction. There is no service fee or any kind of fee for using our team to do migrations for you. And all of these migrations and onboarding resources that we can provide are at no additional cost, and they're included in your current subscription price, as long as you have clients that are either on your wholesale billing or are added to direct bill the customer from your QBOA add a client feature. So when we have checked those first two qualifications, this is going to be sort of our pre-migration. If you have a client who is not located in Quebec as their home province, these would be the steps that you would be following. If you do have a customer who is in Quebec, you would ignore these pre-migration checks, because obviously you would be reporting to the Ministère de Revenue, and you also want to ensure that you're going to keep your tax items active after the migration to ensure that you can report accurately. So all of these steps are going to have the actual steps in writing. There are some screenshots missing. I will use that as my caveat because the screen capture I was using couldn't pull down the actual drop-down list. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our Ministère de Revenue inactive if it is a non-Quebec based company. So we're going to click on our vendors, and then we're going to go to the vendor center, and we're going to select all vendors first from this box in the top, and we're going to do a search for MINI or MIN, and we're going to either double click on the Ministère de Revenue name, or you can also click on the pencil icon, which will open up that vendor. That will then give you this pop-up screen. This pop-up screen, we're next going to go to the Sales Tax Setting tab on the left-hand side. And we're going to untick the boxes from the bottom up. If there are no boxes ticked, you're going to totally ignore this. But if there are any tick boxes in any of the boxes on the screen, we want to untick them until we make this vendor a non-sales tax agency. The reason for this is when you migrate and something in your desktop is allocated as a sales tax agency vendor, it's going to create it in the taxes section as that cute little box that comes up so that you can create a tax return or an HST GST return from those. So if you're not in Quebec, you don't need to report to the Ministère de Revenue. And when we untick that top box, it won't come over as a tax vendor in the taxes section in QBO. The next step is to export the company into QBO. We're going to click on the company field at the top ribbon. We're then going to start our export. And we're going to log in with your QBOA credentials. So the regular login to access your QBOA, your regular username, your regular password, and you're going to click the sign in button. If you have inventory, you're going to make sure that you bring it in, and you're going to select the current date as the date for your FIFO valuations. Then we're going to hit the blue continue button. And here you're going to select the name of the shell or the company in your QBO where you want to migrate it in. One step that I would suggest highly recommending doing is renaming your shell or the company file if you bought a bulk purchase from us from a placeholder into the actual name. And then that way you can search that name here within this drop down. You can just start typing and it should pop up. If the shell or the company file in QBO is past the 60 days of purchase, there's a security feature in the back that locks the actual shell, and it will not show up here. What you need to do is then reach out to your service delivery manager to have it unlocked so that it can appear when you go through this process and start it again. The reason that that safety feature is here is that if you accidentally pick the wrong name, you could override an existing file just because you forgot to rename it in your client list. So we don't like unlocking them for extended periods of time. If you have purchased, a whack of shells from us and you have, let's say, 10 that you would like us to unlock, we'll probably only extend the expiry for approximately 4 to max 6 weeks to ensure that you have enough time to migrate into them, but without having that risk of accidentally overriding it again. Once you get an email confirming that your books have been migrated, you will then come and log into your QuickBooks Online accountant, and you will either click on the QB symbol next to that company name, or you can select it from the Go to Clients QuickBooks drop-down in the green banner at the top. You want to get into that client file, and you'll also want to have your desktop file open on the opposite side to make sure that when you go through the post-migration analysis, you have both open to be able to compare. Once you're inside the QuickBooks Online file, you'll click on Taxes on the left-hand sidebar, and we're going to go into the Manage Sales Tax button. All of the tax codes that you had in QuickBooks Desktop, we want to make inactive. So what I usually do is that little toggle button that says Show Inactive, I usually turn it off because as I click them to make them inactive, they will disappear. Once you have no sales tax codes showing here, then click the Add Tax button, select Add Province, and turn on the province for which is the home province for that company. This will ensure that any tax changes to the codes are updated within QBO. If you leave the sales tax codes that came in from QuickBooks Desktop active, those codes will never update to the current percentages for that province. If you are migrating a Quebec file, do not follow these steps. The reason is that when we do a desktop migration from Quebec into QBO, it breaks the Quebec provincial sales tax, and you will actually need to use the existing tax codes that came in from QuickBooks Desktop. It's not an issue if you have a Quebec file and you are starting that from scratch in QBO. There is just an issue from the desktop to QBO migrations because we stopped doing a desktop platform for Quebec back in 2009. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to compare your data. And so what we end up doing is there is a link that I will be sharing out with this deck that has a Word document called Desktop Migration Template. It's a lovely little chart where you can go through and enter the information of your QuickBooks Desktop to your QBO data to ensure that everything is matching. So the first step I do is I go ahead in Desktop and check the View Prior Returns and see if they have used the sales tax module in Desktop. If they have, we're going to run the reports for whatever vendor agencies we have for the next reporting period. So as of today, if we have filed up until March 31st, 2020, we're going to run the report for the next quarter, if it was a quarterly filer, or the next annual based on their frequency. And we're going to run that in both Desktop and in QBO and make sure that that vendor sales tax report matches. If it doesn't, it's okay. The one thing we want to make sure is that those taxes owing match on the balance sheet. You can always do a sales tax module adjustment journal entry to be able to get it to reflect what your balance sheet number is, because that balance sheet is always going to be correct. If they have never used the sales tax module in QuickBooks Desktop and there are no prior returns, what we usually do is we run it from January 1st, 1999 to the current date. And you're going to run this module for both Receiver General and any other Minister of Finance. And if you had even other provinces turned on and you want to turn on those additional provinces in QBO through that province ad, all of those vendor agencies would have come over. So you can go through and run it for Saskatchewan, Manitoba, BC, it doesn't matter, and use the same sort of theory. Now, because QuickBooks Desktop brings over the entire history with it, you're also going to run your profit and loss, balance sheet, AR, and AP summaries for all dates. That way, you make sure that you have actually gotten everything from time immortal going backwards, as well as any future dated transactions that go beyond your migration date. On the balance sheet, there are 3 additional GLs that I always, possibly 4, that I actually like to check as well. One of them is the AR. I want to make sure that that AR GL matches from one balance sheet to the other, my AP, and then any tax payable GLs, so my GST, HST, or any PST as well. The final thing that we usually check is our reconciliation opening balances for all bank and credit cards. So there's the link for the desktop migration template. I know that that will be shared out with you. There are also limitations as to what will not come over from QuickBooks Desktop to QBO, and there will be a URL link to our website of where that information can be found. If you end up sending migrations to your service delivery management team, when we send you the instructions on how we do it and what we need from you and where, that link is already in our email template as well. Sage migration. So I actually have some really good news for you guys today. If any of you have done Sage migrations with us in the past, you will know that we brought in 2 years of transactional history via journal entry and a 3rd year as a trial balance. As of April 15th, we have partnered with a new third party called Result, and they have a tool called Data Switcher that we are now using. And Data Switcher is bringing in transactions as actual transactions. So it is going to start that 2-year count as of the current date. So if we submitted the transaction today, it would be today's date, going back to 2018. And if you had a January to December fiscal year, you could go back to January of 2018. You can also purchase additional years for $70 US per year. That would need to be done directly through you, and I would get in touch with your service delivery manager so that we can walk you through that process the first time, make sure that you're submitting it properly and that you understand sort of what the process is. It will also now bring in inventory and an AR AP detail for all outstanding customers and vendors as of the migration date. We do say that the turnaround for this is as well 3 to 5 business days, and that includes a post-migration analysis from us, but you can also go ahead and do this on your own. So if let's say you had a client who had their books only up to 2018, you know, you obviously weren't going to need 2019 and 2020 data, and that's when we could forward you towards the website link and walk you through that process so that you could get 2 years up to 2018. There are still a few things that are similar to the old process. You will still need to consolidate the sales tax into one line item so that you can use the QBO tax module. You will still need to do a bank reconciliation to bring you to your current reconciliation period. And one thing that we have noticed with this method is that if you have adjusted AR AP using journal entries in Sage, there will be a credit for that customer or that vendor, but you will still need to go into your either receive payments or pay bills to apply that credit to the invoice for that customer or vendor. The other final massive limitation is that our multi-currency is still coming in as Canadian. Seems that that's a really difficult programming thing. But again, you could always create new vendor suppliers with the foreign currency as a home currency and then just do journal entries to move that over. There are sort of new limitations that we want to ensure you guys understand. We also have a link here for the Sage 50 migration limitations. Again, there is a Sage migration template that we do send out if we do it, and we can always provide that to you as well. When we do the post-migration checks, we check the P&L for the 2 years or 2 and a bit that we have brought in. We will check the balance sheet for those years as well, and then we will check the AR and AP summaries as of the current date in Sage. So if I've done the migration today, I'm going to run my AR AP as of today and ensure that those tie in as well. With the balance sheet check, again, as with the QuickBooks Desktop migrations, I'm a bit of a stickler, detail-oriented. I like to ensure that I also check that AR, AP, and those taxes lines and make sure that those all tie in as well from what came over with Sage. List imports. So with our list imports, this is what we use or help navigate you towards with respect to unsupported platforms. Things like, can we bring in chart of accounts from an Excel? Do you guys support Sage 300? No, unfortunately, we do not do those things. Wave, FreshBooks, etc. If you are able to get a CSV file from whatever other platform you want to bring it into, there are import data templates within QBO that are found underneath the gear, the tools column, and import data. And so the things that we can bring in from in product are any bank data from CSV, customer information, supplier information, chart of accounts, products and services, formerly known as items in QuickBooks Desktop. And then we also can bring in multi-line invoices and multi-line AP bills. So a lot of times you would use this. Sometimes maybe you have a messy desktop file that you don't want to bring in the full history. Or maybe it exceeds the 350,000 targets in QuickBooks Desktop, or they've never used an official proper accounting platform. And so you're just like, we want to take the bare bones out of this and be able to start it just to help you set it up very, very quickly. So if you also provide us with opening balances, like a trial balance as of a particular date, we can get that in there for you as well. This is something, unfortunately, especially with the chart of accounts, when you're coming from a non-QuickBooks platform, most of you know that at starting up a chart of accounts, QBO is very picky as to what it will allow you to name the account type and detail type. We have bare bones chart of account templates by 32 different industries. I've also created a master list of those options in an Excel so that you can just easily copy and paste that information into the template, and it will speed up being able to get it in there. If you find that the tools within QBO are also not as robust as you would like, we can also talk about third-party apps that can help do this. So things like Sasant, Transaction Pro Importer, and a few others. And I know I covered Xero in that agenda. Right now, we do not have a full-out solution for Xero. There is something in the pipeline. We are working on it, but for now, it would probably end up being opening balances. But if you have any questions about that, please feel free to still reach out to your service delivery manager, touch base with us if you do have it. Maybe something is going to change in the near future. And if there are any questions, we can deal with those now.